This video is going to show you a solo Grandmaster Nightfall getting platinum rank this week on the Fallen SABER. For those that just want to see that, then skip the timestamps. Other than that, I can show you the setup I was using, etc. So the modifiers for Fallen SABER, they're pretty much the same as any other GM, apart from it's got its featured acute burn, which is arc, so we've got to take that into account, and champions are barrier and overload. So, considering all that, well, first things first, this is just going to be more of a tick list of what I'm bringing to it. There'll be more information in the run. So first things first, you want the right emote. So make sure you put on Royal Alignment or any other emote that works for this thing that I'm going to do, which if you're watching it, you probably know what I'm on about. Any sit-down emotes, most of them work. I'm not sure every one works. I know a Vault of Glass one works, and I know this one works. So I'm just using Royal Alignment because it's a pretty common emote to use. So the setup itself, we're using Osteo Striga, a Arsenic Arc Bow, and a Arc Heavy Tarantula. So emphasis on arc weapons because we're going to want that buff for the acute burn. If you want to use something different, my only recommendations for the heavy slot are either an arc rocket like Hothead or any other arc rocket that you've got in your vault, or an arc linear. They're your best in slot because obviously our exotic slot's going to be taken up by Osteo, which is really worth it in this GM, and you'll see why. And then with the barrier weapon, we're using an arc bow. You can use an arc scout or any other barrier weapon that you want to use. It's up to yourself, but the bow's really good in this, and you'll see why I think so in the run itself. The setup is Contraverse hold, so we're using Contraverse hold on Voidwalker, so Cataclysm Super, Healing Rift, Vortex Grenade, Aspects, Chaos Accelerant, Feed the Void, Fragments, Echo of Undermining, Echo of Remnants, Echo of Expulsion. As I said, Contraverse hold with 100% discipline, that's critical. Make sure you get a high discipline stat on this. The setup itself is basically just basic, to be honest. It's Font of Wisdom, Reap and Wellmaker, Elemental Ordnance. It just means I get a couple of Elemental Wells, and as for doing that, I get increased intellect. I'm really standard with it. I haven't really, went high energy fire or well of tenacity. You don't really need the build. What you really do want is the stats and the mods to complement that, like Ashes to Assets. Exceptional thing. Always make sure you run Ashes to Assets on a Warlock, a Voidwalker. It's so good. Ammo finders, obviously, scavengers as well, super important. And then on the chest plate, this is super important. I'm using a Master GOA, Grasp of Avarice chest plate. The reason for that is because it comes with an extra slot, so I can run Thermoshock, double Thermoshock, and a Concussive Dampener. Give me more variety on my resistance. I'm not saying that you need it, it's just the icing on top. If you've got a Master GOA chest plate, use them in GMs because you can do stuff like this, right? Really, really strong. And then on the bond, we've got Bomber, Lucent Finisher for heavy ammo off champs, and then Overload Grenades. Even though we've got Overload SMG, you still want Overload Grenades as well, which we've got it here. So that's the setup of it. So as we start the run, we'll spiral our way to the Warsat area. As for the emotes, make sure that you have an emote that you can exploit the Warsat. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. It's the Warsat section itself is pretty easy. So if you do want to do it as it's intended, you capture parts of the Warsat at a time. So you do 5-10%, then jump off 5-10% like that. I've covered that in depth in previous videos on the exact percentages and how many ads you get, at this section, at that section, are the snipers, are the arc shields, either that, or the servitor, or a barrier, or overload, or whatever. But this video obviously isn't going to show the ad spawns because this video is focused on getting platinum rank number 1 and you soloing it, and therefore you being able to get the triumph. However, I wouldn't say that this is one of the toughest GMs this season, So to talk about what I'm doing here, for this to work, you need to make sure that your most of your body, or it seems to be related to your head, not so much your body. So make sure that your head is well into the Warsat so that you can sort of barely see your head. If your head's sticking out quite a bit, ads will aggro you, they'll throw nades at you, and then it'll be just a wipe at that point. There's no coming back from that because you'll have a lot of ads spawn on top of you. You'll know if it's worked because the ads won't shoot at you at all. Alright? So once you get it to work, it's pretty easy to do. You just need to back up into the Warsat. If you're unsure, just replay where I actually went. You just want to back right up into the Warsat, then do your emote. Right against the Warsat, and then it'll work. The reason why this emote's good is because you sort of sit back in the emote. Whereas I tried the Leviathan one. The Leviathan one doesn't work. It doesn't seem to work from what I've seen. So this one seems to, work really well. So just use this. So we're just going to capture 100%. The champions will not despawn. I was told at the start of the season that they'd fix that, and the champions do despawn when you capture the Warsat. That is a lot of rubbish. Once I found that out 6-7 weeks ago, whenever it was, I was like, oh, whoever's told me that, they're just literally giving me disinformation on purpose. The champions don't despawn once you capture it, so therefore you can still get platinum rank. So that's actually a good thing. It would make no sense if they did despawn, because even if you're doing it legit, chances are there might be an overload still up, maybe. And if that overload then despawns, then that's unfair in general. So they don't despawn, so don't worry about that. So it's a case of just chilling out. It takes it. That's the pain, Just chill out, make a drink, whatever you're doing, and then when you get to 100%, flip your camera around to see the ads despawn. I didn't, I guess I do now. As soon as that happens, you can then just run, because the ads generally won't shoot you, so you're good. But you want to get out there quick, because the overload will collapse on you after that. So your goal here is to take out the barrier. The barrier depends on what you want to do. If the barrier's in a bad spot, is just use your primary, keep bowing him, right? Or a grenade. That will then cause the barrier to either teleport out of cover or sometimes in cover. It just depends on your luck. The barriers are annoying to fight, but your goal is to get the barrier first, because the barrier is going to more than likely shield both overloads. Sometimes it just shields one, but I would still just take out the barrier first. That's your goal. Then what we're going to do is take out the overload. I usually take the overload to my left because he goes to that rock. This is where I fight from, on top of this cliff. When there's only one overload left, I'll push up. Now notice there's different types of overload champions, and I'll talk more about this as we go on. Barriers, they're all the same. For the fallen race, I'm talking about the fallen enemy race, the barriers are all the same for the most part. The overloads aren't. They have different types of weapons. What I want to do here is get this champion finishable. Now the S.A.B.E.R there was up and exploded, so just be careful when you do, wherever you put your S.A.B.E.R, make sure that you're not close to it, because if that S.A.B.E.R gets explodes, it will actually kill you. Because S.A.B.E.Rs don't despawn now, of course. So that's that. We've done the initial section, which obviously isn't hard. 2 overloads, 1 barrier. This room, see, Fallen Saber's deceiving. It's very easy and a little difficult at the same time. It's such a weird Nightfall to me. I can see that happening, because your positioning is very critical in this, and you need to be alert. So this first room, the way I deal with it, is a grenade right at these stairs here. That will hopefully take out one of the explosive shanks. That is 4. You need to be actively counting how many overloads you've taken out. Right? There's 2 there. 1 flanks me. That can happen. You just need to be strafing. You just need to be going up and down this corridor. Once you're confident all the explosive shanks are taken out, it's then Marauders. Marauders can attack you if you aggro them. Or they'll attack you depending on how many ads are left alive. Now you saw there, I got flanked. There's pros and cons to standing here. You can get flanked. You just need to be aware. You just need to keep moving. When you peek a corner and you do a bit of damage with your grenade, move, look behind you. Is any ads pushing you? No. Okay, keep going. And just keep looking. So you can see I'm vigilant. You've got to be so vigilant on here, because as I said, they can just flank you so easy. I'm going to put a grenade there because all the ad spawns have just about finished, I believe. As you can see, there's a lot of Marauders and stuff. I think all the ad spawns are dealt with. But that's another pro to this area, is that you can spawn kill a lot of the ads. The Marauder there pushed. The Marauder won't one-shot us, so we have a chance, right? Because of the double Themoshock. But we won't survive 2. So you're okay to be, 1. Obviously, because you've got no radar, it does make it difficult. The top tip would be is knock off your volume. Like, I'm being serious. Knock off Destiny's music. Only have SFX volume. That's the noise of enemies, your guns, abilities. It doesn't have any music, you know, or comms. I'll use a super here because the super penetrates barriers. Tethers. They obviously tether the ads, make them immune. The Nova, even though I know it's only 2-3 ads, the Nova's well worth to use there because if any of them are snipers, which chances are they are, snipers can two-shot you in this. Not one shot because you got Themoshock, but they will two-shot. So dealing with barrier, trying to take out a barrier while you've got snipers at you is not a good thing. Now obviously I've come back to this box area at the back of the map because it means the Overload can't get any shots on us and we can easily take out the barrier itself. That will then initiate the next phase, so you're going to have an extra Overload on the phase that you're dealing with now. 4 Tracer Shanks will spawn in. Once you take out the 4 Tracer Shanks, I would recommend taking the Overload to the left, then I do the one on the right. I have a sort of routine, if you like, we do in this GM. So I do the left one. Sometimes they'll move about, sometimes they won't. This is where Osteo's so good, because you can literally just primary them down, which it should do. I mean, it's been excellent, this gun. It's as soon as it came out, I knew it was good. There was people calling it as it came out. I don't know why they were calling it, saying it didn't have range and stuff. It has tons of range. It is literally the best SMG. If we were just to say what's the best SMG in the game, exotic wise, this is the best SMG in the game right now. Now, if it's not Overload SMG next season, then it won't be, will it? It just depends. They haven't given it an intrinsic weapon, intrinsic sort of perk for champions, which they should have done. It was a missed opportunity there. They should have done it. That's fine. We'll get a finisher kill here. So we're max on heavy, or almost. So this is what I'll do with this section here, is activate the fuse, but we're going to position ourselves in such a way so that we can spawn kill a lot of marauders. Now I think it's 3 or 4 shots to the fuse. So I've done 3. The delayed explosive headshot would explode the fuse, and I can turn around and do my grenade because this is where they spawn kill from. This is where they spawn from, sorry. So I do that, the delayed explosive shot. Then I spawn kill a lot of marauders, and then we need to focus these exploder shanks. Don't get close. You can see that I got half HP, but then Devour procced in. So I would say 2 to 3 meters. Any less than that, you do not take out an exploder shank. You have to back up or something because they're deadly. They'll just one-shot you when they explode when you kill them. It'll just one-shot, and it feels bad to die to that, so don't. The 2 resilient tracer shanks at the back of the map you take out. Just check for audio cues if there's any invisible noises. Yeah, some people might not even know what I'm going about. The marauders that go in biz have a audio cue to tell you that they're near, but you don't know where they are. So just make sure that there's none of that stuff going on. If you don't know what I mean, just do a visual check around that corner, because that's where they hang around, just to make sure they're all dead before you start dealing with the overloads. Then we'll use a super on the first overload. That overload was the arc one. This room here right now, we've got an arc and a solar one. Actually, I'm not sure if this was the arc one. My bad. So I took out the solar one first, which wasn't actually the best play. You want to take out the arc one, but it depends which one pushes. Generally, the one that does the arc attack, is more threatening to you because the arc bullets go round corners, and they can track you, and they do a lot of damage to you. Like, I would say 6-7 shots of the little beams that they do can literally kill you. So you can't mess around with those overloads. The ones that do the solar ones aren't as bad, right? Up close, they're quite bad, but from a distance, they're not too bad. Like 10 meters, you're fine against them. Up close, if they get you with a direct hit, they do more damage to you. So just be careful of which overload you're fighting. Now we've got 2 shanks here to take. Now it can be quite awkward for this because the aim assist of the bow sometimes won't hit them, and they'll hide. But just be patient. Don't use any heavy. You don't need to use any heavy on these because you might get heavy off them, and it's a brick for later. I've had that happen. So just a case of, just use your bow or your scout or whatever weapon. So how we're going to do this arc charge is the hardest thing of the whole GM. You've literally, I recommend you watch this twice. This little section, you watch it, see what I do, and then again. So I'm just going to follow on the right hand side, then do a grenade there, and then I deposit. That's my little own routine. I've watched about 15 people do this. Like what their strategy was. Obviously for a hunter it's a little bit easier. Titan a little bit obviously harder. I've seen a lot of different, everyone has their own little way of doing it. I would just suggest watch a couple of people's way of doing that orb, and then try each one and see what's the best one for you. That one that I done right there, go leading on the right hand side, then charging a grenade, because then that causes the exploder shank to come round one of those pillars or them objects, so the exploder shank doesn't explode, so to speak, or he does, but by the time he has, you've dunked. So just look at what routine you want to do for it, because it is a nightmare, that section. I hate it, but as I said, if that's something you're struggling with, the hunter's really good for it, because you can go in biz, etc. Well, I'll just look at what people are doing. I'll try the way I done it. So this is the next room. It's not too bad, this room, but you can easily die. You can switch off for a second and die. So it's not that this GM's difficult in terms of combat. It's just that you can look around a corner and there's an exploder shank and you maybe didn't know, or there's 3 wretches and they all melee you at the same time. So that doorway is just a death trap, and it's a nightmare. So you've got to sort of peek shoot. That's where the bow comes in, you see. See, a lot of this GM is around shooting around corners and stuff. So if you can do a bow shot and then straight back in cover and then do your bow shot, you avoid all the fire. A scout rifle wouldn't do that, because a scout rifle needs sustained fire. All weapons do, really. If you think about it, hand cannons, auto rifles especially. Auto rifles that's why auto rifles are sort of used by players who are just starting the game. They're a starter weapon. But once you start to get good at the game, you drop your auto rifle and then you start running scouts, hand cannons, and bows in this case. Bows are still the best weapons in the game. Talking about end game content, bows are still the best. I know they're not the best on barriers, but you can make them work. And there's not many barriers in this GM, so it's fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a Nova. Now I was wanting to track a little bit on the barrier, which it did, but also to take out the tracers, the snipers, because the snipers were tethered, and that's a threat. They're 2 snipers, they will kill me. 2 shots off them, 1 shot each, that will kill me while trying to deal with the barrier. Now this is a top tip: you must take out the barrier and do not take out the overload. Take out the barrier, because what happens is once you take out a champion, you'll get the next spawn of overloads. So if you choose to take an overload, you're still going to have a barrier up which will tether all the overloads that are coming out now. So it's a no-brainer. You take the barrier. You've got a choice, and it's a solar. It was a solar overload, so they weren't really doing any damage to me, so it was fine. The issue with that is this: that you're going to have 3 overloads on this phase. So what you want to do is have one of them push you, because there's 3 overloads. 2 of them will stay back, 1 will push, if you allow him to, like you saw me just do. I've aggroed the champ around the corner by just shooting my gun, right? And then that way you can take out one of the overloads from back here. Just the only problem is this door. So I recommend you try and put as much damage into that overload as possible. Also, whenever you stun a champ, it's not when you kill a champ. It's actually when you stun a champ, you get an extra spawn of wretches. I think it's 3 waves of wretches or 4. I'm not 100%. It's not unlimited, but every time you say, if you stun a champ but you don't kill that champ, you'll get a spawn of wretches. So you need to sort of be observant with that. So when you are going to stun a champ, you're either going to commit for that kill, or you know, you're going to stun the champ and then look for the wretches, kill them, because they're not unlimited. Eventually they just stop spawning altogether. Like, look, we've got another spawn. In actual fact, that's kind of weird. So they might be on a timer then, because we've just got a spawn of wretches. Or was it just 1 wretch? I think it was just 1. So that was from a previous phase. So an overload has jumped down, which is it's not a bad place, but the overload jumps back up. I know he's Osteo, there's poison damage, so he's still overloaded, so go for the kill. That wasn't too risky. It looks more risky than what it was, because if I do get any shots off that Overlord in his solar, I back right up. So it wasn't too bad, because I took out the Arc Overlord first. So that's where you need to prioritise that Arc champ, because he's threatening. This solar one, they're very inaccurate. So 3 wretches spawn, but we get Osteo's poison damage to chain to them and kill them. If that hadn't happened and the wretches loop around and flank me, you need to disengage with this champ and kill the wretches. Also, this is where you need to start optimizing a bit of heavy ammo finishers. Pick up all the ammo as well. You cannot come back to this room to farm back ammo. There's a blue door that comes up, so get your max ammo and then leave. So the room before the final boss is not bad, but it's also a bit of a pain, because what you've got here is 3 overlords to the left, 2 snipers with the barrier. Now luckily I got one of them, because one of them wasn't tethered. The reason for that is because barriers can only tether up to a maximum of 3 or 4 adds. If there's more than that number, then the barrier will some of the adds will be damageable, basically. So you need to take out, now that was, if you do see a sniper on this phase where you can take them down, you use your linear to quickly take them, because you're going to do a bow shot and then they're going to dodge. And it's orange bar, they're orange bar snipers, so they're not going to go down in your bow shot like with one shot. You're going to need multiple hits. So you notice that I nearly got the barrier, but he teleported to my left. It's behind the pillar. It's just it was just one of those things. We've lost a little bit of ammo, but that's fine. We can get ammo back with Lucent Finisher. It's just a case of we need this barrier to aggro on us. So I'm going to push up just a little bit. See, notice there with the position, I push up just a little bit and that barrier starts to loop out. I'm going to do a nade to try and speed this up a little bit and to stop him from teleporting. We're missing some of our crits here as well, which that's on me mainly. These barriers, actually, their crit spot was there was something wrong with it a couple of seasons ago. There was just something wrong with it, just like with the Vex, but they've sort of fixed it. It's a bit more reliable on hitting the crits now, because their crit, it was moving about quite a lot, and you were getting crits and it wasn't counting as a crit. So now you've got the 3 overlords. Now this generally will be difficult, but because of our setup with the Voidwalker and basically infinite grenades and Osteo, you can stun all 3 overlords if they're all bunched up with Osteo. So it's not a problem. The main thing about this section though is taking out all the adds. Obviously don't start dealing with these overlords until all adds are taken out. Even if it's one dreg's a threat, because one dreg nades where your position is, you need to move, disengage, which might mean that you might miss on a stun on the overlord. So take out all the adds, be smart about it, isolate stuff. What I want to do is try and take out the champ to the left section, right? Now, don't take the one to the right, because you can sort of be hit by one, but not the other. This one I'm dealing with here is the solar one. So that means there's an arc one left alive, which is fine, because he's on his own now, so we can deal with that. However, I end up having problems with him. I don't know why. It's just that case of overlords. We're still not in a situation of... I mean, I let him sort of re-trigger there, because you can't shoot through that barrier. There's that barrier in front of him. I realised that. I knew he was going to respawn. But with overlords, season upon season, I know there's a weapon called Divinity, right? And I know that solves all problems for overlords. But that is a team weapon. You can use it solo. I've seen people use it solo, which is actually an interesting thing. But that doesn't answer it, right? There's a inherent problem with champions in the game overall, and it's not getting addressed. I've been complaining. Yes, I do complain. I'm actually that type. I will complain if something gets not looked at for a long time. I've complained about it for over 12 months, 18 months of complaining about champs. And it's not their AI, so to speak. I like that adds teleport. Not on top of you, though. I like that they'll teleport left to right and do all the things, you know, and that they're not just boring enemies. I like that. I like the concepts of, you know, barrier and Stockville and all that and Overload. What I don't like is the way how we deal with them. Okay? I don't like the way we deal with them. And here's another thing. It's pot luck on the season whether you're going to have a good time in Nightfalls or whether you're going to have a bad time. So if they bring out Overload Bow next season, right, I'm happy. I'm happy. That's great. They've got Overload Bow. Oh, give me a good barrier weapon as well because they're nerfing Arbalest. Oh, great. They've given me anti-barrier scout. I'm happy. Or even anti-barrier, I don't know, SMG even. That was actually pretty good. So it's pot luck because all the mods across all the weapons, like your standard legendary weapons, are inconsistent. Overload auto rifle, inconsistent. So there's no consistency. They would need to rework the whole champion thing from ground up for it to work. I'm just doing some, obviously, champion talk while we do this bit. However, I did get pushed by a shank here. That caught me off guard, that. So they need to rework the full system. Plus we have Lucent Guardians. Now Lucent Guardians, a lot of people have praised them, and they were really good in the Legendary campaign. Yes, they were really good in the Legendary campaign, but are they good in GMs? Yes and no, because in GMs, they're over the way they, especially the Sentinel ones, right? Because we've only had Lightblade as the first GM with Lucent Guardians. Those, they're not a huge problem. Right, because you can analyse what they do with the barricade, the grenade and all that. But we haven't seen the rest of them. But I do prefer the Lucent Guardians fighting those at the very least, as opposed to champions. But there needs to be a middle ground. Anyways, as we start the fight, we're going to charge our grenade, Nova Bomb, and then as much Tarantula as possible. Might do some box breathing shots in between, but I don't want to do too many box breathing shots because I don't want to mess about with the boss. Because I have actually seen on people's gameplay where the boss actually pushes up and he can stomp you. That's a big issue. So you don't want to mess around with this boss. I wouldn't refrain from using heavy. That's what heavy's for here, because you're not going to be using heavy on pretty much anything else in this boss fight apart from the boss. You're not going to use it on the champ. You don't need to use it on the champ, because here's the thing. What we're going to do here, this isn't a cheese, by the way. This isn't an exploit or anything. This is just using in-game mechanics as they are. What I'm doing here is I'm increasing my super regeneration by using my weapons on a tanky target like a champion. So we can farm super off this champion to let him regenerate his HP and then keep shooting him. Just keep an eye on my super regen bar. I recommend that you do this because on the second phase, I wouldn't just spam all your heavy, because that's going to cost you a lot of, probably 10 shots to do a phase of damage. Because you need to get that boss out of there quick, because the shanks will slowly start to come on horning onto your position. So the Nova helps out with damage, is what I'm saying, and this is only taking us an extra minute, 90 seconds. I think that's well worth spending the time just to farm up a super for second phase, right? Because it just makes that second phase more consistent, and that's what you want, a bit of consistency with these GMs, because there's already enough inconsistency with champions as they are. So you may as well try and do some things yourself to make the whole thing a little bit more, you know, to the point where you're enjoying it a little bit more, rather than, you know, widen because you didn't have enough damage or something on a particular phase. The second phase is actually quite dangerous because, as I say, you will push up. Another thing to note is that this boss can snipe you. He's still in sniper phase. So he's on the first two phases, he's the sniper phase. Then he goes to Void, where he does Void damage to you. And then when you break his head off, or his front plate, he goes to Arc, which is in Enrage mode. So the sniper phase is dangerous because he can snipe you from where I am. Now he doesn't see where I am, so don't stand where the boss is. The barrier will move to you. Don't move to where the barrier is. If you move to the barrier where the barrier is and the boss can see you, the boss can one-shot you flat out. He can actually one-shot you. So don't let it happen. Don't give it a chance. Just stand in a spot where the pillars are, so where the boss can't see you. Now we've got super, so now I can melt. So I'll use a bit of Osteo. I'll use my bow. I'm not willing to use any heavy though, just in case. I mean, I've got a brick on the floor, but I'm just not wanting to use any heavy. There's no point. The champ's literally killed now. Also, standing low spot, because the boss will then teleport to me. So you need to be here ready for damage. Don't go for a finisher kill on the champ. That's a huge mistake if you do that. Grenade Nova, same thing. Again, we might get some box breathing shots potentially. But mainly it's just a case of, see, the boss is looping around. This is what I've seen can happen to people. He loops all the way around and can actually stomp you. So I wasn't wanting to risk it, so I just took him out with a linear. Then we'll get a grenade there going, because there's a lot of shanks. It'll also get our Devour going. Try and take out as much shanks as you can, but this isn't really, this is stress-free, this section. Actually, sorry. There's 2 exploded shanks that spawn on this phase, and then snipers. Try and take out 1 or 2 of the snipers before, but you might not be able to get them all before the champion tethers them. But the exploded shanks, definitely take those out as soon as possible. Once you get that little bit done, it is stress-free after that. This shank is still tethered, so what do you do? What you need to do with that is lure the boss away, which he's actually lured away now. I could have actually shot that. I didn't realise the sniper wasn't tethered anymore. But what you can actually do is break the barrier's shield. That will stop the tether animation on any ads, so then you can take them. That's all ads taken out. So now we need actually, on the run itself, I sort of phased out and sort of forgot. I was actually following my SABER, and you don't need to do that right here. You can literally just take the champ down. I've got 9 shots, which is about right for what I want at the end. I've also got a brick on the floor, which it's only an ammo finder brick though, take notice. It's not a full brick, just an ammo finder, so it might be 2 or 3 shots. So yeah, I sort of forgot mid-run that I can just kill this champion. Just when you do that, you need to rotate. Don't go near any of the electric pillars. They will kill you quick. So to my left, don't jump over them. Just jump nowhere near them. Okay. This boss is this champ, sorry, is literally killable now. And then this on this last phase, these last 2 phases, if you like. See, there was only 2, so that was only ammo finder. So that's fine. We've got 11 shots, which is good enough. We'll come to the map rotation over here. These pillars will lift up in a minute. And then this is where we fight from for here. So this phase isn't too bad at all. It's just a case of the boss will keep summoning reinforcements. These exploded shanks, a couple of things to know about them. They're not infinite, and they don't give score. A guy was taunting me about this, saying it was a bug, or it was bugged on my particular strike that I wasn't getting points for the explosion. You don't. They're not worth points. As you can see, it's +0. That's same for everyone. Go and check anyone's video on this that's ever done anything about it. You'll always see that they'll have 0 points. So, but obviously, you know, you don't care about points. I mean, you do with Guardian games, but not for a GM. So the idea is now just take out all the waves of exploded shanks. I'm not sure how many waves there is, but you'll know when they stop. At the bottom left-hand corner, it will tell you when he's summoning reinforcements. I didn't know this exploded shank was here. When he does that, have a look to your left and right to see if they're coming out. If they're still coming out, then there's still more phases, obviously. Whatever you do, do not do too much damage to the boss to break his front plate off. You want to take out all the exploded shanks, because if you start doing damage at a critical time, exploded shank can explode on you while you're stationary and doing damage to the boss, which you do not want. That'll be a big fail if you do it. That's why we take out all the exploded shanks. I'm not saying you can't do that with exploded shanks up, but you just increase some risk, and you don't want to increase risk. We're just what I'm doing is I'm prepping the boss a little bit, but I don't want to get him too close, because if exploded shanks get close to him and I explode those, they do massive damage to the boss. So I wouldn't want to accidentally get to the next phase, because you need to be ready for it. You need to be ready with a grenade, your Nova, and then a couple of linear shots. I missed a couple of crits, but it is actually forgiven on this final phase, because when his faceplate breaks off, he summons snipers. They used to come out really quick. I feel as though they've changed the timing on them. They don't come out so fast anymore. You seem to have a good 10 to 15 seconds of just you and the boss, and then eventually the snipers do come out, and it's death zone at that point, because there's not really anywhere to hide from snipers, and the boss is in, then therefore enraged and tracks you. So notice there's no more shanks coming out. So I'm confident now to prep the boss. I would advise when you're prepping the boss from phase 3 to phase 4, you don't use too much osteo, because you might break his faceplate sooner than you want. Like right now, he's prepped. Right, he's more than he prepped. So you do your healing rift, charge your grenade, Nova, and then you just spam linear. Try and get your crits though, because it'll make it a little bit more consistent. But anyways, that was the solo GM for the Fallen Saber on a Warlock. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.